Hello Kim and good morning. This is your machine, the Breville Barista Pro in sea salt brass. Thanks for your business. So as you saw in the photos I sent you yesterday, this machine is like a factory second / X display. Basically a new machine that has a few scratches, but otherwise in unused, like new condition. So this one had the scratch around the front, about 2 centimeters long, a couple of minor scratches here, one over here, and a small ding over here. Honestly, you can't see the ding from standing high. Unless you stand really far and lower your head, you can see it maybe, but standing next to the machine, it is not visible. Also a couple of chips here on the right and left, but you can't really see them with the tray in place. You need to take the tray out to see the scratches. So overall, very decent condition for what it is, a discounted limited edition machine. In this video I'll be making coffee, actually my morning coffee on this machine. So I'll be testing the grinder, the brewing, the steam wand, and we'll also test the hot water tap just to give you an idea of what it is for. Yeah, so this machine is pretty quick. It's got the new thermojet heating system ready in 5 seconds. And it's actually like a on-the-fly heater, so it only heats water and steam as needed. So at the moment it's not turned on and it's basically cool to the touch. When you make coffee, you want your machine to be a little bit warm, so you can do a blank shot. So let me just get my cup. I'm actually going to use my own milk jug, my own portafilter, my own tamper, and my own bean hopper, just to try to keep your machine as clean as possible. I am using your drip tray and tank. I will dry these after this video so that there's no water in the box. Give me just a second. Alright, so here's my portafilter, lock it in. Here's my cup, put it underneath, gently so you don't scratch your machine. And I would press the double button, let it go for the full 13 seconds usually. And that will warm up the portafilter a little bit, it'll warm up the cup a little bit. You can do it twice if you want a bit more. But I like to do it as well just because it acts like a bit of a cleaning cycle. It will flush the group head from any coffee grounds or oils, also flush the portafilter. So that's the double button, it went for 15 seconds. It's actually based on volume. You can change these buttons if you want. You can change the buttons to whatever length of water you want. I'll do the single button just to test it and give you an idea of what it's like. Usually about 11 seconds. Ten seconds, there we go. Okay, put that on the side. On top maybe. Great, and then take out the portafilter and dry it. You want it to be as dry as possible before you grind any coffee into it. Now your machine comes with quite a few accessories. It comes with 4 baskets, 2 single size and 2 double size. The 2 double size, there's one that's made with a single layer of metal called the single wall, and there's one made with 2 layers of metal called the double wall. This is the double wall, it's in the box. It is basically mainly for pre-ground coffee. So if you use pre-ground coffee, or you got a gift, or if you bought pre-ground coffee because they're flavored, I would use the double wall because it'll give you more crema with pre-ground coffee. Whereas if you're using the grinder, if grinding your coffee fresh, I would use the single wall baskets because they will taste better and be more authentic and also be easier to clean actually. But the dual wall baskets, I will admit, they are easier to use. You don't have to be perfect with your grind size adjustment and the grind amount adjustment. And even if your coffee is a little bit old, the double wall baskets will give you crema, whereas the single wall baskets need fresh coffee, correct grind size and correct grind amount. Otherwise you'll find it difficult to make coffee with them. The cafes use single wall baskets. The really cheap espresso machines that you find in Aldi for 50 bucks, they use double wall baskets. So that gives you an idea of what baskets are used when. All right, so I will add some beans to the grinder. I've never made a coffee on this machine, so you'll see me dial it in on the spot and what the process looks like. Basically, I just put the grind size in the middle of the range, so it goes from 1 to 30. 1 being very fine, very small coffee particle size, 30 being very large, coarse coffee particles. And the grind size will basically determine how quick or how slow your shots will be. So I'll give you a bit of an idea of what espresso should be. It should be an 18-gram dose in the handle, and locking the handle, making coffee, it should be a 36-gram dose in the cup, so a 2-to-1 ratio. So for every gram here, you want 2 grams of coffee in the cup. So that's a 2-to-1 ratio, and that should take 30 seconds. Plus or minus 5 or 10 seconds usually is acceptable, but textbook is a 2-to-1 ratio in 30 seconds from the button press. Now, if I were to make a coffee on grind size 1, I assume 1 is very fine. It's almost like flour, very small particles. That 36-gram shot may take a minute. It may never come out because the particles are so small that coffee's not coming out because there's so much resistance. That's one extreme. On the other extreme, if the grind size, if I put it on 30, that's very large particle size, the water will go really easily between the coffee granules, and my 36-gram shot will take 10 or 15 seconds. That's too quick, not good. So that's another extreme. And the perfect would be, like I said, 36, or let's say 35 to 40 grams in about 25 to 30 seconds. That's pretty good. So yeah, I would start on 15 and make a coffee, and I'll see what comes out and how long. And if it takes too long or too short, I will adjust the grind size accordingly. If it takes too long, I will increase the grind size to speed it up. If it doesn't take too long, it's very quick, I will decrease the grind size to slow it down. And I'm assuming you're using the correct dose of 18 grams and good fresh coffee. So these are, I would say fresh coffee because this is Aldi coffee, but I think Aldi coffee is one of the very few, if not the only supermarket bean I would trust. Most other supermarket brands are not fresh, and they are pretty stale when you open them, and they will give you troubles. They will flow really quickly, even with fine grind sizes. So I've been using Aldi. They've been giving me really good results, and they're not expensive either. Quite a lot of coffee, should be enough for our purposes. Right, I'm just going to quickly let it run for a few seconds so that it can fill the chute and the lines with coffee, but also I want to have a look with my hand just to see if it's really fine or really coarse. It's on 15 at the moment, so middle of the range. It's quite coarse at 15, so maybe I'll bring it down to 10 or 8. This is grind size 8, looking better. I'll leave it at 8. Okay, I'll leave it at grind size 8, and then just a reminder for you, when you make any grind size changes, please let it purge for about 2 or 3 seconds. Just like that. That is because when you have, for example, grind size 15, and then you make coffee for a few days on that size, and then you're like, I'm not happy with that, let me go to grind size 8. In the lines, in the chute, there's a couple of grams in there, couple of grams of the old grind size. So you want to flush that out by grinding the new grind size, which is now 8, for example. Let it run for 2 or 3 seconds, check that out, then start again. That's just going to make your life a bit easier. Otherwise, if you change the grind size straight away and then make coffee straight away, it'll be a mix of the old and the new grind size, and it'll confuse your results a little bit. It seems a little bit wasteful, but trust me, it will save you coffee and time. That's the grind size with the dial here. The grind amount is how much it'll grind for. So it's basically the number of seconds. I'll leave it on, I don't know, 14, and we'll see how much comes out. You can change it in half a second increments, which is pretty granular. On the other machines, it's usually 1 second jumps. I will measure the inputs and outputs with my scale here. So you don't have to have a scale, but I've got a scale because I make a lot of coffee, but also I think it makes life easier. If you don't have a scale, I can still show you how to make eye level, sort of eye, what do you call it? Eyeball of the amount. So it's on 14, let's grind 7 seconds and see how much we have. I almost forgot. Your machine comes with this collar tool. It makes life easy. It basically locks into the handle, just like that. And then when you grind coffee, it'll go sort of a little bit high, and then that reduces the mess that you have. So I think that was very not eloquent. When you don't have the tool and you grind the double dose, the coffee will pile up to here, and it may spill down the sides as you take it out. This prevents that. So if you have a pile of coffee up to here, that's totally fine. It's not going to spill. Not going to spill at all. And then you can actually press down the coffee with the tamper in place. With the collar in place, I mean. Cool. Resetting my scale to 0, then grinding. That's about 7 seconds. Let me quickly measure. It should be about 9 grams. It's 11 grams. So that tells me, okay, so we've got 11 grams in 7 seconds. That means 14 seconds will give me 22 grams. That's too much. I would reduce that to 12 seconds. Now we'll grind for 6 seconds, and let's see if 6 seconds gives us 9 grams. That's 6 seconds, and that's 9 grams. Very happy. Get rid of some of this, because now I've got 20, right? 11 plus 9 is 20. I've gotten rid of a couple grams, so now I've got exactly 18 grams. I'll take it out just to give you an idea of what I do to make my coffee nice and smooth. You want the extraction, so what the majority of people do, and you can do that, that's totally fine. Once you've got that double shot ground into the handle, you can press it down with a tamper straight away. Take out the tamper, press it down. That's okay, that's going to make it an okay shot. But if you want to be super professional about it, and when you have the time and patience, I encourage you to take this out and distribute that coffee ground with your hand. You want the surface to be nice and smooth. Well, sorry, not nice and smooth, but it should be roughly flat, so that when you press it with the tamper, the pressures are even as well. Otherwise, if you're being technical, if you have like a little mountain, like a little heap of coffee in the middle, you'll press it with the tamper, the middle will be nice and compacted, the sides will maybe be a bit more loose, so that will lead to channeling. What channeling is water going through thinner areas in the coffee puck, and sort of reducing the evenness of your extraction. That's very technical, but that's just something I prefer to do. It's a pro, so it should be used like a pro. Hopefully you'll make coffees like a pro very soon. But anyway, grab the tamper and press it down nice and firmly. Make sure you have even pressure all around, and you don't want the tamper to be wonky to one side or the other. And that's what it should look like once it's tamped and polished with the tamper. Now, here's my top tip. If you don't have a scale, totally fine. Just use my settings, make the grind the coffee, press the coffee down, and then look at this tamper. Your one is brass colored, of course, but this one has every Breville tamper has this silver part or colored part and then the black part. This silver part should be the depth for your coffee once you've pressed it down. In other words, this silver part should disappear when you press the coffee down, and it does. So when this coffee exactly is this deep, when the coffee is exactly this deep, you have the correct dose. As I confirmed with my scale, I've got 18 grams exactly, and yeah, it's this deep as well on the basket. So that's an easy way for you to gauge by eye if you have the correct amount of coffee. If, for example, you've got too much coffee, you'll press the coffee down. You'll try to press it down as much as you can, but you can still see some of the silver part. That means, or the brass part, that means your coffee, you've got too much coffee in the handle, in the basket, and you need to reduce that. Thankfully, Breville does include another tool in their arsenal with this machine called the razor. The razor basically goes inside here, you turn it around in a circle, and it will scrape the top layer. So it will scrape the top layer of coffee so that it's the correct depth to put in the machine straight away. If you have a closer look, the depth of this razor tool or this step is basically the same depth as this tamper. Very, very clever engineering. Alright, lots of talking, not enough coffee brewing. Let's make a coffee. So this is nice and clean. Make sure you wipe the edges so that the machine stays clean inside. Lock it in. I'm going to get rid of the water in my cup. Here you've got the hot water tap. If you turn the dial away, it'll give you hot water straight into the cup, which is very convenient. You don't have to move the cup at all. This is good for long black Americano coffees. You can brew tea bags with it. You can warm up your cups with it. I like to use it because I like to add a little bit of sugar. So this little bit of hot water will help my sugar dissolve. So I always use the hot water tap, even on my machine here. So if I add a little bit of sugar with the water, it'll dissolve nice and evenly. And then when I brew the espresso, it'll mix very equally with everything. So if you like to add any flavors or sweeteners, add them now. So that when the espresso comes down, it mixes thoroughly with the flavors. Reset my cup. I'll reset my scale, and let's make the coffee now. What I'll do, just to make your life easier, I'm going to reprogram the double button to give us about 40 grams of coffee. From factory, the double button, the standard extraction length, is about 60 grams. If you remember, we said 36 to 40 grams for a standard espresso. 60 grams is too long. I'm not sure why Breville does this, but that's what they do. They make it really long. And if I were to use the single, it'll probably give me 25 to 30. So what I'm going to do is going to reprogram the double button for you to give you about 40 grams. So when you get this machine in a few days, you use my grind settings, you use my brew settings, and your life will be a bit easier, hopefully. Reset to 0, and I'll show you how to program. It's pretty easy. After you've ground your coffee, you've put the handle in place, you want to go to the menu. Make sure you have water in the tank, of course. If you go to the menu, you go to the custom shot. There's the single selection, there's the double selection. It's right on top of the double button. You press it, and then you press the button. It will line up. You press it now. It will start making coffee. Then I'll press it again to stop and save the amount. Keep an eye on the timer and the amount in the cup. That's how I can tell if I've got the correct or the incorrect amount of coffee or the grind size. So the coffee starts pouring out about 7 seconds. Looking good. We're at 15 seconds now and I've got about 20 to 30 grams. I will stop it just in 5 seconds. Okay, I stopped it at 25. I think we've got about 40-ish grams. just based by eye level. So let it drip, 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 and take it out. 41. You do this for so many years, you build a little bit of pattern recognition. So this is 41 grams of espresso. I think we did a good job with setting up the button. This is like not exactly 2 to 1, maybe 2.2 to 1 ratio. Absolutely fine. I love even numbers. I love multiples of 10, so I'm going to keep it at 40-ish. I'd rather be a bit more than a bit less, because if you got a bit more, it'll add more acidity and sort of brightness to your cup. But if you have a little bit less, it'll be a bit more bitter. But anyway, that is 41 grams of coffee. Again, you can eyeball it. You can do this for a few days and then look at the cup and be like, all right, I know this much is about 40 grams. I've got the correct amount of coffee. I'm sure you'll know if you have half a cup full of espresso, that's not really espresso shot. That's a lot of coffee. So you need to grind finer to reduce your yield. If you have a few drips of coffee only, a few drops, a few milliliters, that's too little. So you want it to be about this much. Thankfully, this machine makes life easy by having a flow meter. So it will give you roughly 40 grams every time, whether it takes 15 seconds or whether it takes a minute. So it should be roughly, not a minute, let's say 45 seconds. Once you go really high, really slow, it will struggle, obviously. It won't be as consistent if you have very fine grind sizes or very large grind sizes. But if you're in roughly the correct range, which we are, it'll give you about 40 grams every time from this double button. Cool, I'm very happy with that. We got it right from the first try, which makes me really happy. So that was 25 seconds, 40 grams. If we're being perfect and technical, maybe we need to slow down a little bit more so that the 36 gram shot takes 30 seconds rather than 40 grams in 25 seconds. So if we grind a number or two numbers finer, that will bring us closer to our 30-second mark. But super happy at this level, especially considering it's our first shot and considering that you'll get the machine and you'll probably use different beans. So I don't need to be as perfect or as exact with my setup, but now hopefully it's at least in the ballpark for you to use it from day one and make good coffees from day one. That's the espresso shot. If I were to add hot water to it, we can call that a long black. But I'm gonna add milk, steamed milk to it, so that we can make a latte. I will turn on the steamer and then I'll quickly jump to get some milk. I'm gonna fill about halfway with cold milk. This is my personal jug. Your jug has a small dent on the bottom and it's brass colored. My one has a thermometer, but honestly, I don't really use the thermometer. I just go by touch. If the jug is too hot to the touch, I'll stop the wand and I'll know that's about 60 to 65. So when you can't touch the jug for more than about a second or so, that's usually 60 to 65 degrees. But you can get a thermometer to ensure that you're correct. Alright, steam wand is pretty quick on this one. It takes about 5 seconds to start steaming. So I'll need to be quick as well. Alright. Turn it off, position your wand, turn it back on. Keep it at an angle. Keep it swirling. The closer your wand is to the surface of the milk, the more foam you'll get. So if you want to get a cappuccino, you keep it close to the surface for the majority of the time. That'll give you more foam. If you want it to be a flat white, you don't really keep it close to the surface for too long. For a latte, it's sort of halfway, so maybe 10 seconds around the surface, and then go deeper after that. And it's too hot to the touch now, so I'll turn it off. It's about 60 degrees. Try my best not to scratch your machine. Before before I pour any milk, I'll grab a wet cloth and wipe this straight away. It's a beautiful brass colored wand. You don't want it to be milky, so grab a wet towel and wipe it on the outside. Very importantly, give it a purge. So I forgot to do this, but before you let the machine cool down, after you take the jug out, just give it a quick purge for a second or two. Just spray some water through those holes at the tip to prevent any milk clogging the wand. So I'm just gonna grab this wet towel and give it a good scrub. Beautiful. That's all clean. And if you want to clean the coffee part, I forgot to do this as well. Just take the portafilter out, give it a good knock into the bin or the knock box that you have, and it falls right away from the first knock if you're using the single wall baskets. If you're using the double wall baskets, they're a bit harder to knock off. And then I like to run in a few seconds of water to flush the group head. 13 seconds, which is the standard from my experience. Anyway, so flush the group head. That also flushes the portafilter. If you want to be extra nice to your machine, grab a tissue and give it a wipe around the seal. That's just going to keep the seal nice and clean. A few coffee grounds collected when you do this. Even though I flushed it, there's often a couple of grounds left in there. Well, a few at least. That's about it. Let's not let the milk sit for too long. I'm gonna give my crema a little bit of a mix. That's delicious espresso, I must say. Give the milk a few swirls. So I'm going to knock it on the counter to break any of the big air bubbles. Then I'm going to swirl it around to mix the layers. I think we spent a bit too long cleaning the machine. I should have done that more briskly. The more you wait, the more flatter the milk will get. But this is pretty good. So if you swirl it around and then break any of the air bubbles, at the end you should get like a nice smooth texture of milk. Almost described like wet paint. If you're handy or skilled at all, you can really get some latte art with this machine. Honestly, any manual one will give you latte art, but this one does it pretty well because of the strength of the wand, and it's got 3 holes, so it's super easy to get some nice designs. Struggling where to put the cup. Let's put it here and take a photo for you. Looks really good. Lots of foam, and that's not even the entire jug. It's a bit of milk left. But yeah, that's a few centimeters of foam, and that's on the latte sort of method. You could get much more foam, you could get less foam depending on your technique. But yeah, that looks good. Let me just break some of the air bubbles. I'm sure you can do even better latte art if you do some practice. I have never taken a barista course or practiced my latte art, so I just get it by luck sometimes. But yeah, that's supposed to be a art. I hope you enjoy this machine. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your business. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your trust all the way from Western Australia. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Send them through, and I will dry this machine, clean it up, and then ship it for you later this morning. Thanks again for watching, and yeah, have a good weekend.